Who do you think will win in the lawsuits between Brad and Angelina? Or does no one win in situations like this? That sounds more correct. Welcome back. It's me, Amanda. I'm here again as a guest host today on InformOverload, but if you ever want to talk nerdy with me, check out our channel Top 10 Nerd as well. Number 10. Seizing control. As part of a countersuit regarding the dispute surrounding the sale of the winery shares, Angelina Jolie's former company Novell has claimed that Brad Pitt wanted only to control the winery estate, Chateau Miraval, and that is why he is upset about the selling of the shares. In actuality, they claim he only wanted to control the joint financial venture and for years has been pushing them out and wasting assets on lavish projects that they deem completely unnecessary and unrelated to the winery's success, including a swimming pool and a recording studio, which I gotta say, doesn't seem super relevant to making wine, but you know. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you find this whole feud that's been going on for years between Brad and Angelina to be pretty crazy, let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. I think it's pretty crazy. Pretty sad, really. Number 9. Juliette Lewis. While this relationship has been lovingly reminisced on by both Juliette Lewis and Brad Pitt, the fact remains that it's kind of an odd one, even for the time period. The two ended up meeting on the set of California, with both of them being considered young, hopeful talents of Hollywood at the time. They dated for 4 years and seemed to have a great and beautiful romance, and just as Brad Pitt was actually getting ready to blow up, basically. But there was something a little odd about this relationship. When they started seeing each other, there was a 10-year gap between them. Now, this might not seem super strange, considering there have been, you know, bigger age gaps in celebrity couples and in regular couples, and for some, that still seems pretty normal. But the real weird part of it was that they were at two very different sort of points in their life, with Brad being 27 or turning 27 and Juliette only being 17. Yeah, so she was still in high school, which I mean, I guess they could still connect over work, both being performers, but other than that, their life experiences would have been probably pretty different at that point. Some people still find this to be an odd relationship today, especially considering it managed to go strong for 4 years. However, both of them still remember it pretty fondly, although they no longer talk, which I think is pretty weird, but I guess it was a long time ago. Number 8. The divorce. I think one of the biggest red flags that people tend to overlook in cases like this is when things drag on. It's never a good sign, and it can usually mean that there are bigger issues that are kind of being like danced around but not really unearthed or talked about. People who are able to put the past behind them and just move forward generally have nothing to dance around. That's why it's, you know, so easy for them to just move forward with their lives. They have let go and they don't hold things against their former partner. But with Brad and Angelina, both of them seem to be struggling to let go and are still stuck in disagreements with each other even to this day, which could be an indicator that there is a bigger reason as to why they split, other than just deciding to go their own way. And that's what we're beginning to see really delved into now, as Jolie seems to realize that she maybe has to lay it all out or she'll never really be free. That she has to dive into some traumatic moments that she perhaps would have rather been kept a little bit more private and less publicized. There's also the fact that it took them 3 years to get themselves legally declared as single. Just declared as single, which is a long time. A standard divorce, by the way, takes between 4 to 6 months to get finalized, although obviously when there's custody battles and stuff involved, it can take longer, but it's still been a long time, even considering that. Number 7. Addiction. After the split between Brad and Angelina, Pitt cited personal problems as one of the issues for sort of the arguments that led to their divorce. In response, he decided it was time to do something about these problems and admitted himself to AA. This might not be a red flag in the sense that obviously going to AA is a good thing if you have a problem all in all, but it is a red flag that he did so right after the divorce, implying that his misuse had gotten to the point that it was dramatically affecting his life, with the divorce and whatever happened to trigger it kind of acting as a wake-up call for him, which kind of could be an indicator that there's something worse there. At least there was in the past, you know? Number 6. NDA. In the current legal battle between Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, the two are now feuding over the winery that they once shared and what Angelina decided to do with said shares. Initially, the two had an agreement that they would get clearance before selling, but when Jolie sold her shares behind Pitt's back, he protested. It was reported that Jolie wanted out of the joint business ventures and that Pitt was willing to buy the shares, but then their deal fell through. And this was apparently after months of them negotiating. Well, Pitt claims this this was so that Jolie could purposefully harm him after he was awarded shared custody of their 6 children. Jolie claims their deal actually fell through because Pitt wanted her to sign an NDA as part of the sale to him. Jolie was unwilling to sign that NDA as she felt this would limit her capacity to speak the truth of why their marriage dissolved and problems surrounding it. She obviously just didn't want to be silenced, if that is the case. While the two have differing stories as to why this deal fell apart, if Jolie is speaking true, why did Brad want to keep her quiet? And what were the terms of the NDA covering? Also, if it was their relationship, how does that relate to selling the winery? That doesn't seem like it should be included at all. Number 5. Harvey Weinstein. Although some say that Brad Pitt was one of the few who stood up to this unfortunately wasn't always the case. When it comes to his relationship with the notorious producer, many tell of the 1995 story where Pitt stood up to him to protect his then girlfriend Gwyneth Paltrow, who confessed that Weinstein had severely mistreated her, which to be honest is an understatement. However, what those people seem to be missing or not focusing on is the fact that after this incident, although Pitt did stand up to him, he also later worked with him. What? The 2009 film *Inglourious Basterds*, which Pitt starred in, was both distributed by and co-financed by the Weinstein Company. Angelina Jolie claims that Brad Pitt also approached the producer to work on his 2012 film *Killing Them Softly*, whose company ended up as the distributor for that film, which really hurt her because she also had a bad experience with him too. So, like, what? It's also pretty messed up, I feel like, if you do that when, you know, your wife is like, please don't work with this person. Number 4, she said. So Brad Pitt is complicated when it comes to his history with Harvey Weinstein. He privately spoke out against him years ago in the 90s when he, actively threatened the man when he put his hands on Paltrow, but then he was willing to work with him in 2009 and the 2010s. In 2019, he spoke out against the man, however, disavowing him and sharing the story of his experience defending Paltrow in the 90s. He also went on to executive produce the film She Said. Some people though deem this to be quite controversial, considering that Brad Pitt also seemed to be willing to work with him only a few years ago, which seems hypocritical. Is it all a show, or does Brad Pitt genuinely condemn this man? She Said is a film that follows the New York Times investigation of Weinstein and is also being produced by Pitt's production company, Plan B Entertainment. Number 3, allegations. Recently, things have escalated quite a bit in the legal cases between Brad and Angelina, with Angelina even bringing up a previous incident that seems to be the inciting one in terms of their divorce. She alleges that Brad severely mistreated her and their children while on a flight, and based on the account given, that's truly an understatement here. It said that Brad Pitt was under the influence and verbally attacked Angelina before turning on the kids when they came to their mother's defense, even getting physical. She also has attested that she and the kids are willing to provide evidence of this in court, and she's even willing to testify. Number 2, the kids don't want to see him. While Brad Pitt reportedly does see his younger kids but prefers to do so unphotographed, which honestly makes sense. I mean, who wants paparazzi around at all really to photograph anything other than maybe like a movie premiere? That's the only time, I think. It's also reported that he perhaps hasn't seen his older kids in years. In fact, according to a source for US Weekly, Pitt does not have any kind of relationship with his eldest son, Maddox, and doesn't talk to Pax either. In fact, it seems that the inciting incident on the airplane in 2016 is likely where the breakdown of the relationship between son Maddox and father Brad began. The source is saying ever since then, it's been really rough between them. However, according to a source for People, Pitt does still see and maintain a good relationship with his younger children, having nightly dinners with them whenever they are in LA. But it's interesting that his older kids seem to not want to see him, especially as, they're older, so they kind of have more, more agency in making that choice. Number 1, testimony. Maddox doesn't only not have a good relationship with his father, but reportedly also testified against him during the custody battle. Although we don't know exactly what was said, an exclusive source told US Weekly, Maddox has already given testimony as an adult in the ongoing custody dispute, and it wasn't very flattering towards Brad. It's also been said that the distance is so great that Maddox even wants to legally change his name. The source added he doesn't use Pitt as his last name on documents that aren't legal, and instead uses Jolie. Maddox wants to legally change his last name to Jolie, which Angelina has said she doesn't support. What do you think of the allegations made against Brad Pitt? And turning to hopefully less dramatic thoughts, how are you doing today? Are you having a good day? Having a bad day? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for joining me on this roller coaster of a drama today. Make sure to take care of yourself and others and drink lots of water, friends. I'll see you in the future. Bye.